Welcome back to a special edition of Frost Over the World from, there you see it, Washington, D.C. Last week, Sarah Jessica Parker captured all of our hearts. And we've got more from her, I'm delighted to say, this week. Of course, she played Carrie Bradshaw in Sex and the City, and now her new movie, I Don't Know How She Does It, she plays a busy mum, from the original book by our very own Alison Pearson. Here she is, Sarah Jessica Parker. People always complain, two of the great characters in your life, both Carrie and, of course, Kate, and in the movie which is in fact doing great in Britain at the moment, as well as over here.
Not as well here. No, sadly, no, but I remain optimistic.
Very good. The tide will turn following this interview.
Your mirror mouth, Sir David.
Yeah, following this interview. But in fact, I mean, the two characters, well, you've sort of implied that really Kate is more like you.
Well, certainly in my current life, I think that one of the many things that I love so much about the movie was that the story was so relevant and to me, because she is a person who is really pursuing balance. She is somebody who is a devoted mother and wife, but she's also somebody who takes her professional life outside the family and very seriously. It matters a lot to her. She's worked very hard, and she's at an exciting point in her career, and that the bigger theme of the movie is this search we have for balance, and how do women and men today in these economic times be all things to all people, but it's told with great humor, and it shows the absurdity of this modern parenthood we're all living. But I thought, yes, it's relevant to me, but more importantly, it's millions and millions and millions of other women's story.
Do you think, in terms of the happiness stakes, women have won out over the last 20 years or not?
Well, I certainly think we're the beneficiaries of a really important work by our parents, my mother and her friends and women she didn't know. And I think because of the work that they did to give us more choices, one of the options is happiness, because we get to pursue a lot more than my mother's generation did. That doesn't equal happiness, as we all know. Opportunities and choice are also complicated and overwhelming, but the fact that I can dream about something as a grown-up person and then go out and think that I can pursue it, think that that is an endeavor that is not closed to me because of my gender, makes me happy. It allows me to dream, and I think that's very important for women.
Yeah. And you were quoting the example about orgasms and the cake, the fake cake and the...
That's a line in the movie. I wasn't saying it, but yes.
Yeah.
I think the line is, it's so sad, women used to make the pies and fake the orgasms, and now we fake the orgasms. And Christina Hendricks, I think, has some witty retort, something like, well, she likes that. I think she prefers, I can't remember. I don't remember. No, did I have it backwards? I think not. I think I have it right.
No,
Does that sound right?
No, I think you absolutely...
Okay, make the pies, fake the orgasms. That sounds like a different...
And so, do you have constant ambitions of things you would like to play in the future, either in film or television or theatre or whatever? Do you have those ambitions?
I don't have that kind of specificity. I want to keep working as an actor. It's the thing that I love most. It's the thing that I know best. It's the thing I've been doing longer than being a wife or a mother. But I can't say to you, gosh, I'd love to play a conductor. I really want to understand what it is to be a janitor or, a school teacher. I think I respond to story and to the people that I will or won't be working with, and that's what always interests me most. And of course, is it different? Does it feel like something I haven't yet done? Because the hardest thing is to say no to the familiar, and that's the great challenge. Is people think of you in a certain way, and then you find yourself reading a lot of scripts, for instance, about a metropolitan lady in a city who happens to love fashion, and you think, well, I've done that, you know, and I got to do it in a way that I was really proud of, so I think I shouldn't do that again.
Yeah. You've been an influence on people a lot, really, haven't you? I mean, people have followed what you've said in the two big series, particularly. I mean, you've really been influential on your generation, which is rather fantastic.
Well, I think, you know, I was very fortunate, I think privileged to play somebody who was a new voice. She wasn't a new voice to the women that she was speaking to, but she was a new voice in television and cinema, and I think having heard their voice kind of proclaimed, it was, Carrie Bradshaw was a wonderful kind of Pied Piper, and so I don't know that I've been influential, but rather I played somebody who I think had a big impact on women at a time that they were ready to see themselves, even if it was a fantasy version, even if it wasn't really, if it was, you know, slightly hyper reality. I think there was a connection to that woman in those specific times in that very specific city, and the things that she wanted were familiar, and the way she chose to speak. And I think her kind of curiosity about sex and politics and sexual politics and the roles that we play were a part of a conversation on a more intimate level with women. And so I think I don't know if I'm influential, but rather I've been part of something that was.
But I mean, the people sometimes, women sometimes presumably say to you or write to you, thank you for the influence you've had, didn't they?
Yes, they do, and I always try to, when given the chance, to recognize that it is really in large part because of this role that I'm so associated with, and which is why people are wanting me to say that I'm so tired of it and it's some burden, and I always say no. You know, we all want to do things with our life that connect with other people, I think. I mean, we don't all want to. Some people love being a hermit and reckless, but I like to have a connection with people. I particularly like to have connection with women, and so I'm very proud of the association, and if this is what people recall, there are far worse things a person could say about me, yeah. I think. Yeah.
Hey, this has been such a joy. The time has rocketed by.
Thank you.
I've loved it.
I've loved it too. Maybe next time we'll have more time. We can discuss other things as well.
While I was in New York at the UN, we met up again with Mikheil Shaakashvili, the colourful, turbulent, in fact, president of Georgia, a thorn in the flesh of Russia and a thorn in the flesh of anyone really who annoys him. It's a great joy to have you with us again. Thank you for...
It's always great for me.
And how are things going in the relationship, the love relationship with Russia at the moment?
Well, look, there are two levels of this relationship. On the one hand, the Russian government does not recognize our borders, does not recognize our government, does not recognize even ceasefire agreement they themselves brokered. Indeed, they've been very violent. Yesterday there was a thing published of how President Sarkozy described Putin yelling at him like for half an hour how much he wanted to hang me. However, this is one level of relationship when we have 20% of our territory occupied, we have almost half a million people not able to go back to their homes because Russian leadership decided that that's no longer their houses. That's like that. But on the other, it's a fascination right here now because there are lots of Russians coming to Georgia. We have hundreds of thousands this year coming. We actually made it visa-free travel for southern regions of Russia unilaterally. It's impossible for Georgians almost to get to Russia, but lots of Russians can come in Georgia, most of them without visa. And actually what happens is that if you look very, very carefully at what Moscow elite says, at the Russian bloggers, the way how they're excited when they come into a country which was just as it could get a few years ago, yeah. And suddenly it's looking, despite the fact that we don't have oil and gas like they have, it's looking way better than they. You know, just 6 days ago in Poland, I was a few days ago in Poland, and there was this Russian professor who told me, these days we admire you like we used to admire in Cold War times America and West Germany. And I told him, well, if we replace for you America and Germany, you should really be in trouble. But that's a genuine feeling of many Russians right now. But so as you rightly said, it's love and hate.
Right. And that's very interesting. But we read also that you've had some local riots and so on in Georgia, some discontented homes.
Look, Georgian government right now has 70% approval. It stands very high. And we had from time to time, like every democracy, there are some people expressing genuine discontent. What we had the most recently, however, it was something that was directly financed by Russians without even hiding it. It was like their thing. As a result, it didn't really have, it wasn't homegrown, didn't really receive much of support. And these people showed up at our National Day celebration, 20th anniversary, and said, we just want to allow you to have rally, to have military parade, because that's how we think. And actually that was an unlucky incident. But I think what happened is that the way we handled it, it was unfortunate, but it only boosted the government standing right now. But on the other hand, we have strong parliamentary opposition. We have different pluralist views on the media. You know, we are trashed from time to time everywhere, all over Georgian media, and we are used to it. And that's exactly why Georgia is, in a way, we are building this kind of democracy at a gunpoint. You know, gun is at our head. This guy, which holds gun, a big guy, he wants us killed, and still we are continuing. We are continuing to move on and to build full-fledged democracy. We don't want to shout wolf, saying, "Oh, they have gun at our head, so let's stop thinking about something positive and let's just concentrate. It's no time to have dissent." No, it's time for everything. It's a full-fledged democracy. People argue. They also can hate the government.
So, what about the future, though, Mikheil? I mean, the situation is that your second term is supposed to be your last term in terms of the Constitution, but with the Constitution having changing a bit, I mean, is there a chance that you would carry on rather like Putin?
No,
you're your hero, Mr. Putin, and you would continue as Prime Minister.
By definition,
would you do that?
By definition, Georgia can have no Putin, because first of all, there are several differences with Russia which are immense. We are democracy, we are free media, we have very vibrant, real opposition, not the fake ones, and you know the way how we are lambasted every day, the way how we have to fight every day for our political survival, even if the government is pretty popular, it's amazing. So this is none of this greenhouse conditions that our friend Vladimir has back there. A. B, I think the point here is that Putin didn't need to be prime minister. I mean, basically under the Russian constitution, prime minister doesn't mean much. He behaves like a Tsar. He was doing this anyway, and Putin president under him, even if president could have fired him any moment and had all the power before him. What will have in Georgia is a complex parliamentary European system, and I don't believe in personality-based power. I don't believe in putting yourself ahead, above the country and thinking that without you everybody would lose. I don't believe in that. Of course, I would like to play some role, but that's not up to me to decide it. And certainly, as I said, there can be no concentration of power anymore in Georgia anyway. So any position right now after this presidency ahead would look much less comfortable, much less sexy for anybody. So it's not kind of Russian type of situation.
That's very clear. But you haven't absolutely said you would never ever take on the job of Prime Minister. You've left a little smidgen of an opening.
Sir David, I mean, you don't want to be talking to a lame duck right now when we are a country that has to carry amazing reforms, and it's like even in America being lame duck looks ugly. In Georgia it can be fatal.
And we've got the love story between, on the one hand, Georgia, and on the other hand, Ukraine as well.
Yes.
We can watch that as well. Thank you so much. It's always so good to see you.
It's a great honor to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John McCain, Senator John McCain, was of course the candidate who ran against Barack Obama in the last American election. Who's going to run against Obama this time? That's the question. And who better to ask than the person I just mentioned, John McCain. John, it's great to see you again.
Thank you, sir. It's great to be back with you.
And tell me, at this moment in time, actually that was Nixon's phrase for now, wasn't it? At this moment in time. At this moment in time, what would be the main difference between what President Obama has done so far and what you would have done? What's the main difference?
I think one of the main differences, and probably the most significant one, is I would have been much further out front with the Arab Spring. A lot of us realized that this Arab Spring was a a seminal event in history, certainly of the Middle East and maybe of the world, because I don't think the Arab Spring is just confined to the Arab world. And I think that this then led the perception of, quote, leading from behind, as administration officials have described it. I guess the second thing I would have done is that I would have handled the whole Palestinian-Israeli issue a lot differently, which I think that the series of missteps the administration has made has led to this crisis we see on the UN membership deal.
And so those are two absolutely key changes. And does that mean that your party has a better chance in the next election then?
You know, David, I would like to say that my party is focused on these issues, but we all know with the economy and the job situation here in Washington, the focus in the last election of 2010, and probably for 2012, unless there's some major international crisis, will probably focus mainly on the economy and jobs. There are some of us that will continue, though, to emphasize that we are in a dramatically changing world, a shift of the world's economy from Europe, United States to Asia, the Arab Spring, the continued issue of Iran and its adventures in a very volatile part of the world. So I would argue in some respects that since the end of the Cold War, this is probably some of the greatest, and certainly for a long time, more complex challenges that we face national security-wise than we have in a long, long time.
Would you like to see your running mate running for president?
If she wants to, I think she would be a very viable candidate, but I think she realizes that she's going to have to make up her mind here pretty soon because the process is moving on.
And the candidates number, well, you can get close to 10, can't you, with potential candidates for the Republicans?
Yeah, but I think it's pretty clear that there is, Romney has got a very solid base, and Perry has shown some traction. There is some dissatisfaction, as there always is, with the array, and they sort of look for a flavor of the month kind of deal. Yeah. But I'm confident that we will have a nominee that will, I think we have a very good chance of winning the next election. A lot of it having to do with the economy.
A lot to do with the economy. And in general, is there a pressure, how strong is the pressure with the Tea Party and elsewhere for the Republicans to go, what people would say, a lot of them would say, too far to the right and alienate those people in the center who might vote Republican?
Well, I think it's a careful line that that the nominee will have to walk, and Republican elected officials will have to walk, because, look, they clearly had a very serious impact on the 2010 elections. Much of it good. Some of it, we lost 3 Senate seats that we probably otherwise would have won if we'd have had a more, quote, mainstream candidate. Yeah. But the fact is, they have been a motivating and a very energizing part of our political base, and so look, overall I think their effect has been positive.
And in fact, 2 very gutsy lady candidates, I mean possible lady candidates, Sarah Palin and Mikheil Shaakashvili, of course, as well. How do you compare those 2?
I think I think they have very similar attraction to the base of our party. Sarah Palin has been a governor and went through the presidential campaign, as we all know, but but I admire anyone who's willing to get out there in the arena and fight, and so my admiration goes out to Michelle Bachmann for getting in the arena, and also to Sarah if she decides to do so.
You're just off to Libya right
Yes.
now, and I mean, you've been very involved in the Libyan situation, and that's one issue on which you and President Obama don't disagree, presumably.
Well, our disagreement is that I believe we should have used the full weight of American air power. I think it could have been over much, much earlier and have saved the lives of hundreds, if not thousands, of young Libyans. Having said that, my hat is off and my appreciation goes out to particularly the British and the French, who led and spent a lot of effort in making this situation possible. I wish the United States had led more with air power, but it is what it is, and I think the Libyans have a real chance now for a democracy.
Because the situation is interesting, isn't it? I mean, there was pressure that America should step back a bit from leading the situation and so on. I mean, are we on the verge of a situation which America steps back from leading the free world?
I think there's a perception in the world that America is stepping back and America is weakening. Now, that assessment was made years ago during the Carter administration, and several times the world has made that assessment and they've been wrong, and I hope they're wrong this time. But there's very little doubt that withdrawals from Afghanistan, with the imbroglio concerning Palestinian and Israel issue, now obviously the reset button has been proven to be not too effective given Putin's, which people like you and I knew very well he was going to remain in power. And of course the rising tensions in Asia with China and the countries around the region. I think that there is a perception that the United States is not as powerful a nation, certainly, as it has been.
You're expecting what you see in Libya will be positive and encouraging, or worrying?
Both. I'm encouraged by a lot of the things that the TNC has done. I'm encouraged by freeing up of assets. I'm encouraged by a whole lot of things. I'm very worried, of course, about rise of radical Islamic extremists, about corruption, about revenge taking. Look, this guy, Gaddafi, and his people were as ruthless and as, we just uncovered this mass grave just in the last few days where they slaughtered people who had protested in a prison. So I really hope that they can keep things under control. There are reports of sporadic revenge taking and other abuses. You got to expect some of that, but if we can get through a period of 3 months without serious disruption, then I'm very hopeful.
And you
could I just mention one other thing?
Yeah.
Al Jazeera and I don't always agree, but Al Jazeera, I think, has played a key role in the Arab Spring, including in Libya, by having people on the ground reporting events as they're transpiring, and I'm pleased that the reporting that they continue to provide out of Syria.
Oh, thank you for that, because a great deal of effort and has gone into that to provide those
they played a key role
of that for the world.
Al Jazeera has played a key role in informing the people of the world of the events of the Arab Spring, which sometimes seemed a bit incoherent.
Well, coming from you, that's terrific. Thank you very much indeed, and thank you. I hope you have an encouraging trip to Libya.
Thank you very much, David. And again, we live in a world fraught with dangers and complications, but we also live in a world of great opportunity. I think the Chinese are nervous. I think Putin is nervous. I think every dictator in the world is. And it all started with a young man in Tunisia who was abused by the police, who decided to set himself on fire. That fire hadn't gone out yet.
John, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, David.
Well, so ends the second of our two all-star specials from the States. This one from Washington, last week, of course, from the UN in New York. We'll be back in London, beaming our messages to you next week. Until then, all the best for now.